Hello and welcome to Studio CAG. If you live in Tamil Nadu, you will be familiar with the fact that women here get free transport on public buses. You probably have an opinion on this already. You might think that this is unfair. Why free just for women? You might think this is great. Women need all the help they can get. You might think it's a political gimmick, especially now as free bus schemes have gone on other election manifestos for parties in other states. CAG wanted to get to the facts about the free bus scheme, not merely opinions, and therefore studied the impact of the free bus scheme for women in Tamil Nadu. Today we have with us Sowmya, researcher at CAG, who was part of the study and who is going to tell us a bit about why the study was needed and what it found. Good morning, Sowmya. Can you first give us some background into the free on public buses scheme for women? And is there some international precedence for what the Tamil Nadu government did?
The free bus scheme for women was launched by the government of Tamil Nadu in March 2021. This scheme allows women to travel for free in government run ordinary buses in cities and towns in the state by the use of zero fare tickets. Ordinary buses are your regular buses which has white boards. They're not so deluxe and they do not provide any special service. Tamil Nadu is the third state to implement this scheme following Delhi and Punjab. In 2023, Karnataka also implemented a similar scheme. While not exclusively for women, several other countries and cities in the world have free public transportation for its citizens. Luxembourg, a country in Europe, made all its public transportation free. Dunkirk in France made the bus network free for all. Some other examples include Dewsbury in the UK, Chambly in Canada, Perth in Australia.
We are all familiar with how this particular scheme has divided opinion among the public. Why do you think that is, Sowmya?
Criticism has centered around this idea that it's not fair that women get free rides. Why should men subsidize the women is often asked. Then there is the question of using public money, that is taxpayers' money, for just one group of people. In addition, people think that free buses will result in loss of revenue for the transport corporations, which are already in the red. And of course, there are people who think this is a great scheme and give women an even playing field. So opinion is divided for a lot of different reasons.
Now, coming to the study itself, who was the cohort in your study and how did you go about choosing them?
We interviewed 500 women, each from 6 cities: Chennai, Coimbatore, Tirunelveli, Tiruvannamalai, Salem, and Tiruvarur. The women chosen were regular bus users of different age groups and varied socioeconomic backgrounds. In terms of employment, the 3,000 women interviewed fall under the following groups: homemakers or currently unemployed women, students, retirees, workers in informal sectors, and those employed in the formal sectors.
Can you tell us a bit about what outcomes you were looking for?
We were looking to understand the impact of the scheme. How had it helped or not helped women? Has it opened up opportunities for them? Has it made them more independent? How aligned is it with the scheme's goal of social inclusion? Is there any merit in the arguments against the scheme? That is, taxpayers subsidizing women, more revenue loss to the STUs, and that now women will start to roam without purpose. We knew that the women must be saving some money, so we also wanted to know how much and how they would use that money.
Okay, now coming to the important bit, what did you actually find?
The study found that average savings were between rupees 600 to 800 for majority of the women. One might think that this is very less, but these women have salaries less than rupees 20,000 per month, so the money saved is considerable for them. When we asked what they did with the saved money, most of them invested it back in household necessities, food, and education. Only a few women, that is 18 of them, said that they spend the money for leisure activities. So they are investing in the future of their families and therefore in the country's growth. The scheme has opened doors for women. For some, it's made it easier to join the workforce. For others, it saved time. That is, instead of walking 2 to 3 kilometers for errands, now they take the bus. Some have switched from two wheelers to buses. Access to mobility is a barrier to women joining the workforce, as often they do not have access to personal vehicles. Transport limitations are also used as a reason to deny them the opportunity to study or work further away from home. This scheme has eased that to some extent. The women also said the scheme has allowed them to step out for leisure activities such as going to a park or temple or for social visits. Earlier, these were restricted due to the cost of transport.
For those of you that would like to look it up, this report is called Fair Fares Towards Gender Inclusive Public Transport. It's available on the CAG website, www.cag.org.in. So, Sowmya, calling this study Fair Fares, I think has a message. Can you tell us what that is?
Women are burdened with tasks of domestic duties, childcare, caring for old parents, irrespective of whether they work outside the home or not. So, women typically make a series of short trips in the day to fit in all their errands. This travel pattern is called trip chaining. Fares on public transit penalize trip chaining as it is cheaper per kilometer if a commuter makes a single long journey than several short trips. This extra fare paid by women more than men is known as pink tax. Women are also penalized for not having standard times of travel. That is, take a trip in the morning to office and return in the evening. Women typically travel at varied times of the day depending on their schedule, and public transport services are poor during off peak hours. So, women spend more time traveling for no fault of theirs. Finally, considering that it is a well documented fact that women tend to invest savings in their families, we feel the scheme has contributed to balancing the scales a little bit.
So, Soumya, it's sort of clear that overall women were happy with the scheme, and that's certainly good to hear. Were there any complaints which really should be interpreted as room for improvement?
Like you said, women were happy with the scheme, but there were complaints that buses have become more crowded since the scheme was introduced. Some women also felt that frequency had reduced. Crowding is linked to frequency and the number of buses plying on the route. It could be that since the scheme, more women prefer the ordinary buses, contributing to crowding. And since these buses have to stop at all stops, the time taken to complete the journey and reach the stops might have increased. If the scheme is expanded to include other bus types, the crowding issue can be managed. Some other complaints were that men label them as freeloaders and sometimes the conductor refuses to stop the buses. This just emphasizes the need for better narrative building around the scheme. Women contribute to the economy and this scheme opens up opportunities for them. More women taking public transport means fewer private vehicles, less pollution, less congestion, and greater safety for women in public spaces.
It's wonderful that we've been able to hear from women, those that have benefited from the scheme. It's great that we've got their thoughts on this. But as part of the study, did you also ask men for their opinion on this particular scheme?
Yes, men were also interviewed as part of the study. They feel it isn't fair that men are subsidizing women to travel for free, but that's not the case. The government pays the Transport Corporation rupees 16 for every free ticket. Even though it's taxpayers' money, women's contribution to the GDP must be considered since women tend to invest the travel money saved back in their families. Men also complain that the scheme led to women loitering for no reason. While it's completely normal for men to roam around, women going out for leisure is seen as unnecessary and it's often hard for women due to societal constraints. The free bus scheme has allowed women to access public spaces such as parks, temples without the need to depend on anyone for travel money. Accessing these spaces helps women to take a pause from their daily routine, which helps with improving their mental health, ultimately contributing to healthy relationships at home. More women in public spaces also increases their visibility, making the environment more accessible and safe for all women.
We know that promoting sustainable transport is key to solving several of our current road safety problems. So, that includes your congestion, the pollution, the road safety statistics, which is poor across India. So, and sustainable transport obviously means public transport and developing it to a high degree. How important is a scheme like this to promoting sustainable transport?
Transportation is one of the major sectors contributing to CO2 emissions in the country. We all know that CO2 emissions contribute to climate change. We often fail to see the urgency when it comes to environmental issues since the impacts are either visible only in the long term or they affect us indirectly. It is estimated that about 8,000 premature deaths every year are attributable to air pollution in Chennai. Today, everyone is talking about sustainability and climate change, but no one is willing to make the shift to positively contribute to the environment. So, schemes like these are crucial to encourage the use of public transportation and reduce the number of private vehicles on our roads, which in turn reduces the emission levels.
It's great that schemes such as this, which were perhaps introduced only for the social aspects of it and the social benefits that it can bring, can also potentially go on to solve other problems in the city, in the state as well, and that they can actually work towards sustainable transport. But based on your study, are there any other recommendations that you would make to the government to make the scheme more successful, more accessible, perhaps? What recommendations are you making?
The fleet strength must be increased. Chennai, for example, has just 3,500 buses serving a population of 86 lakhs as per 2011 census. This is nowhere close to the Government of India's benchmark of having 60 buses per lakh population. To promote more usage of public transport, there is a need to increase, improve, and maintain a bus services and in turn make them reliable options to attract more users. The crowding can be reduced if the fare free scheme is extended to all types of buses like the other existing concession schemes. As said before, when introducing schemes like these, a strong narrative building is essential to highlight the benefits and to enforce a positive outlook, making the scheme more successful. Finally, with the help of this scheme, the government must collect gender segregated data that will be helpful in transforming transportation to make it more accessible by women.
Thank you, Sowmya, for joining us today and for spending your time talking to us about this very important piece of work. For over 30 years now, Citizen Consumer and Civic Action Group has been working to protect citizens' rights in consumer and environmental issues and promote good governance processes, including transparency, accountability, and participatory decision making. This podcast series, Studio CAG, like our work itself, will cover various areas of interest to the average citizen and consumer. Follow us on our social media pages, CAG Chennai. We are on Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, Threads, and LinkedIn to keep yourself abreast of both social and environmental news. Our website, www.cag.org.in, and our YouTube pages will also have loads of information which might be of interest to you. Until we meet next time, goodbye.